Chapter 4. 41 Fairfield Road was a smart house set behind a neat privet hedge. There was a wooden gate with a paved path that led to a front door which was painted a cheerful marigold orange. Mr. and Mrs. Bold stood at the gate with their suitcases for a moment, taking it all in. "Oh my," said Amelia, her eyes filling with tears of joy. "Is this really our new home?" There's a good picture of it there. "Yes, dear," said Fred, eyeing the shrub growing up by the front door. "And what's more, I've got an overwhelming urge to mark my territory by rubbing my bum on that bush." "No, Fred," cautioned Mrs. Bold. "I don't think humans do that sort of thing. At least wait until it's dark." "All right, well, let's go inside," said Fred. "Have you got the keys?" Mrs. Bold pulled them out of her pocket and jangled them in the air. Once the door was shut behind them, they put the bags down and began to investigate. "Oh, look!" they cried as they entered each new room. There was so much to see, so much to take in. Hallway, cloakroom, nice big lounge with a comfy pale blue three-piece suite. "That'll show the hairs," tutted Mrs. Bold. A dining room with a pine table and 6 chairs. Try not to chew the table leg, dear. And a serving hatch. And a fitted kitchen that led outside to a pretty garden. Picture the serving hatch there. "And look in here," shouted Fred, opening a door from the kitchen into the garage. "We've got a car." "That'll be handy," said Mrs. Bold, "once we learn how to drive." Upstairs, there were 3 bedrooms and a bathroom. It was all a far cry from their den back in Africa, which, although warm and dry, was dark and foggy, and certainly didn't have a hot and cold running water, a flushable loo, or a garage with a little blue Honda in it. After they had investigated every room, Mrs. Bold stood in the largest bedroom and put her head in her paws for a moment, quite overcome with the sudden change in their surroundings. Fred came and stood beside her. "Are you feeling homesick?" he asked, putting his arm around his wife. "No, Fred," she said, wiping her eyes. "I love it here." "Why wouldn't I? But I can't help feeling a bit sad. This house, the furniture, the wardrobe, full of clothes. Can they really be ours?" She glanced around the room and her eyes rested on the bedside cabinet and a framed photo of a happy couple. She picked up the photo. "Look," she said, "this is the original Fred and Amelia. This is their house and their things. What right do we have to be here?" "May they rest in peace," said Fred. "But listen to me. They are gone, remember? It's very sad, and right that we remember them." He waved his paw around the room. "But what good is any of this to them now? Not at all. I think they'd be glad that home is being put to good use. We will lead a happy life here, and I think they'd want that." He took the photo from Amelia and put it on the bedside drawer. "Now, how about I run us to a nice hot pond, or bath rather? We've had a very long journey, and although I rather like our hyena smell, it might be getting a little pungent, shall we say, for life in Teddington." Amelia smiled and gave her husband a kiss on the cheek. "You're right, Fred," she said. "My tail could do with a good soak. It's been cooped up in my bikini briefs for hours. And there's steam coming out of my wife fronts, which reminds me, what do you call a leopard that has a bath 3 times a day? Spotless." After their baths, where they learned the hard way that a bottle of shampoo on the shelf wasn't a refreshing fruity drink, and shaking themselves dry as they were used to instead of using a towel made a mess up the walls, the 2 hyenas fell into an exhausted sleep. It wasn't until they woke up the next morning and were feeling hungry that they discovered there was very little to eat in the house. For breakfast, they made do with some biscuits that they had discovered in a cupboard. Fred managed to open a tin of beans with his teeth, but what were they to do for lunch? "We'd better go hunting. There must be some zebras around here, or maybe we can scavenge off a pride of local lions," Fred suggested. No, Fred, there are no lions or zebras here. They live in Africa, and human beings go to things called shops for food. I heard someone talking about it on the plane." "And where are these shops, then?" asked Fred, as his tummy rumbled noisily. We passed a supermarket on the high street in the taxi yesterday. I could smell all sorts of tasty things, said Amelia. And we don't have to chase it, kill it, or fight for it? This is my kind of place, said Fred delightedly. But we do have to pay for it. Pay? Mrs. Bold delved into her handbag and pulled out her purse and opened it. Yes, she said, producing some £10 notes. This stuff, it's a human thing. It's what the taxi driver asked for yesterday. It's called money. Apparently the deal is someone drives you home or gives you food or whatever, and you give them these little bits of paper. I doubt the hot water or the warmth coming from these metal things on the walls are free either. Does money grow on trees? No, said Mrs. Bold, shaking her head. Then why do banks have branches? Mrs. Bold rolled her eyes. I can't answer that. It's a strange business. But there are quite a few of these bits of paper in my handbag, and I've seen some more in a drawer downstairs. The taxi driver also called it cash. Knock, knock. Who's there? Cash. Cash who? Cash me if you can. Once they'd finished laughing, Mr. and Mrs. Bold got dressed in some clothes, including hats to cover their ears from the wardrobes, found a shopping bag and set out for the supermarket. This was the first time they had walked down a street in Teddington, or indeed anywhere else. In Africa, if they met another hyena, they would sniff each other, or maybe have a playful wrestle. If they didn't like them, they would curl their lips and show their teeth. But it seemed humans didn't do that. Every time the Bolds passed someone in the street, they were ignored. Then there was the tricky business of crossing the roads. Stop signs, green men, honking halls, all new to the Bolds. I'm quite a tizzy, said Mrs. Bold to her husband, and then wisely decided to watch what everyone else did and copy them. When they got to the supermarket, they realised a basket was needed to put their prey in. All these delicious smells, and Mr. Bold was a powerful, said Mr. Bold, his powerful hyena senses overwhelmed with the variety on offer. Lamb chops, chicken nuggets, fresh bread, cheese, chocolates. All these were new to the Bolds. It's making me a little light-headed, said Mrs. Bold, licking her lips and steadying herself against the shelf. Do we just tuck in straight away? Asked Fred. No, look, I think we choose what we want, then take it over there where all the beeping noises are coming from, and then we exchange it for cash. Oh, it's all so civilised, said Fred. Isn't it? Agreed Amelia. No need to catch or snatch. So slowly, very slowly, the Bolds got used to living as humans. Apart from the basic things like food and washing, there was what seemed like a mountain of new things to discover and try to get the hang of. Imagine never having used a light switch or a television before. Inevitably, mistakes were made, lots of them. For several days they thought that the letterbox was where you went to the toilet. They thought curtains were for wiping your bum on. They thought a waste paper bin was a hat. The Hoover was a musical instrument. An umbrella was what you ate your food with. Soap was cake. And runny honey was shampoo. Oh, and there's a nice picture of one of them wiping their bums. They kept their underwear in the fridge. They ate their dinner at the ironing board, cleaned their teeth with yoghurt and ate toothpaste for breakfast. They thought the rotary washing line was for swinging on and the grass mower was for peeling potatoes with. They ate their lunch off saucepan lids, mistook the garden hose for a snake and assumed the pencils were a tasty snack. Forks were hair clips and that hedge was where you hung your clothes out to dry. And of course, as they slowly learned what things were really for, everything but everything just continued to make them laugh. We've been such silly sausages, said Mr. Bold. I've just watched a cookery programme on that talking box thing. The TV, dear, interrupted Mrs. Bold. Yeah, that's the one. And guess what? What? Well, you know that lovely thick moisturiser we've been using that makes our fur nice and soft? Yes, dear, answered Mrs. Bold. What about it? It rubs in very nicely and I do so love the smell. Well, apparently it's not moisturiser at all. It's called butter. And it's what humans spread on bread. No, said Mrs. Bold. I can't believe we've been so silly again. And the Bolds laughed until tears ran down their furry, butter-scented cheeks. Once they'd calmed down, Mr. Bold pointed out that they'd just learned another important lesson. Have we, dear? Said Amelia, wiping her face with what she thought was a handkerchief. Well, yes. There is an awful lot to learn in this life, but learning can be fun. I'll say, agreed Mrs. Bold, holding out her hanky for inspection, I've just learned this handkerchief thing is in fact a pair of knickers. And of course they both collapsed with laughter once more. And that was chapter 4. We'll read chapter 5 tomorrow.